Welcome back to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. We are in the lair today and tomorrow. We're snowed in. And those of you who are in, I don't know, like Michigan or places where you get a lot of snow, you're probably like, oh, that's just a drizzle. That's just a light dusting. Yeah, I know, but nobody in Texas knows how to handle this. So they just shut everything down and they shut the schools down. And here I am stuck in our bunker here. So obviously, everyone is talking about the ICE-involved shooting that happened over the weekend, and it is, let me tell you, it's giving BLM Summer of Love 2020 vibes. It is giving COVID lockdown vibes. It is the left continuing to blow things out of proportion and manipulate what happened, manipulate people into putting themselves in harm's way. And it just has to stop. It just has to stop. It's disgusting. It's cruel. And it just needs to stop. So by now, I'm sure you've seen the video of 37-year-old Alex Pretti getting into this fight with ICE agents. You can see it right here on your screen. There is obviously a scuffle, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion by design, I would add. And he ultimately gets shot in the process. I'm sure you guys have seen this video, but it's worth watching again. And then we're going to break down kind of and give an analysis of some other angles that we have. The left will now say, just immediately, he posed no threat. He was just a peaceful protester. How is it possible that in the United States of America, someone can be gunned down and executed just for peacefully protesting? This is the Gestapo. Insert hyperbolic statement here. There's a problem with that, though. It doesn't reflect reality. It doesn't reflect reality. And it doesn't reflect what we have already seen in the different angles that have come out. So I want to do a frame-by-frame analysis of the shooting footage as well. When we slowed down that footage, we noticed something that the mainstream media missed. This has been slowed down 3 times. There he assaults an officer. That was the moment that he effed around and found out, because so what the officer was doing, now the left again will say, oh, well, if you just see, the officer shoved a woman and he was coming to her defense. Well, no, let me tell you what I am quite confident happened. That woman that we know from prior footage was on the street. She was in the streets, and what the officer was doing was telling her to get to the sidewalk. You are not allowed to block traffic. You are not allowed to be in the middle of the street. And what looks like to me, the woman thought that she was going to be cute. And instead of going all the way to the sidewalk, she was just going to step back into the street, still at the curb. The ICE officer, who, by the way, I can't blame him, has had enough. It's just enough. They have bottles being thrown at them. They have Molotov cocktails being thrown at their building. They're being doxxed. Their families are being doxxed. Their lives are being threatened every single day that they are out there. And you know what? He's had enough. And I don't blame him. Follow orders. These are lawful orders. Please keep in mind as you walk through this, and I'm going to show you the rest of this that needs to be analyzed here. Keep in mind, these are the same people who wanted you thrown into a camp because you didn't wear a mask or get a vaccine, who they arrested people for eating at a restaurant without a vaccination card. Okay, these are the same people. The same people. All right. So he decided to physically put his hands on an ICE officer who was engaging in lawful behavior and lawful orders attempting to apprehend a criminal. That led to chaos and confusion. And that decision that this man made to put his hands on an ICE officer, knowing that he had a gun, which we'll get into, knowing that he himself had a firearm, that's what ultimately the decision that got him killed. That's what got him killed. Okay, now we're going to get into the firearm thing, because that's obviously a huge part of the story. But I would say it is a little ironic. This man had a staying home saves lives Facebook badge profile picture for COVID. Yeah, I would say the same rules apply here, buddy. You should stay home. You guys should not be out there harassing lawful actions from federal law enforcement officials. You shouldn't be doing that. Staying home and staying out of the way and allowing our federal law enforcement to go apprehend illegal, violent criminals who shouldn't be here is a thing that you should do. Stay home. It could save your life. All right. Now, the Democrats, as you would expect, because they're just ghouls, like they have no floor, they have no bottom, they just continue to get lower and lower and lower. You saw how they tried to use Renee Good as their little martyr, and then it became a little inconvenient when the rest of the footage came out, when the body cam footage came out, clearly showed her smiling, not letting her wife in the car, knowing that she was about to step on the gas as she had an ICE officer in front of her. And that became a little inconvenient to make her the martyr. And so they thought, okay, we're going to make this guy the new martyr. We need a martyr. We got to have one. We got to have one to fan the flames. And now they think nothing can dispute this video. This was an execution in cold blood in the streets of the United States of America. Except when you slow it down again, agents had taken his gun in the scuffle, but he didn't know that. So I want you guys to watch him reaching for his weapon. We've got a side-by-side here. Yeah, there it is. And so you see him reach right there. It's very quick. But so because it's very quick, we've got it also. We've got one. Let's do with the circle. And so when you watch, there he reaches right there for his holster. Don't know if that's one of the extra magazines that he had. Don't know, like, what was he reaching for? Because here is what we know. I hear that there's body cam footage. I would love to see it. Here's what we know. His weapon was a SIG P320. Those of you who love firearms know that a SIG P320 has a very long and sordid and controversial history because it has been known to misfire. It has been known to go off when it was not supposed to. And what you also know when you slow down all of this footage is that one of the agents when he starts fighting with ICE, he resists arrest. He starts fighting with ICE. He also, by the way, in that footage, starts like pulling and pushing the woman that was in front of him. I don't know if that's because he had just been pepper sprayed and he couldn't see and he was just grabbing on to whoever he thought that he was assaulting an ICE officer. But this is very unstable, chaotic behavior from a gentleman who the ICE agents realize has a gun. He has a gun and it's holstered. And by the way, you're allowed to bring a gun to a peaceful protest. You actually have a Second Amendment right to bring a gun wherever you go, in my opinion. But you also have a responsibility not to then engage in a physical altercation with a federal agent. Like, expect chaos and confusion to happen if you do that. So he had this weapon. They took it out of his holster. One of the agents is turning with it and it appears to go off. The guy reaches for, seems to be his gun. And at that moment, in that split second, an ICE officer has to make a decision. Does he have another gun? Does he have a second gun that we didn't see? What is he reaching for? Why is he reaching back there? All we know is that this guy is chaotic and unstable and was sent here and came here with ill intentions. He came here to obstruct our official lawful orders. That's what they know. And what I'm telling you is, you are not the good guys if you think that an ICE agent should just err on the side of what? Some guy who was in this coordinated network who meant them harm? And they're just supposed to go, oh, it'll probably end up fine for me. I'm on the ICE agent's side every single time when the man knew what he was doing and causing chaos and confusion. So again, I welcome more video evidence. If it shows that these ICE agents murdered him in cold blood, which I don't believe that it will show, then I will absolutely say that's terrible and that can't happen. But what do you expect them to do? You have these ICE officers in a situation where they have been left to fend for themselves. They have been left with no cooperation from the governor, from the mayor. What else do you expect them to do? And in spite of that, in spite of the fact that you would think that it would be a bipartisan effort to just get criminals out of our country. I mean, it's actually totally insane to me that this is where we're at in 2026. The Democrats are taking to the streets and acting like little human shields to avoid our federal government taking out the trash, taking out actual criminals. These are not people's abuelas, just innocent abuelas. I know that's another leftist talking point that I've heard. It's just these innocent illegals, which, by the way, just that in and of itself makes them criminals. But these are people with lengthy rap sheets. Like, you're going to go out there and be a martyr and act like a human shield for a child rapist? Be my guest, I guess. And Democrats just actually, this is how sick they are. They are watching this happen. They are watching these people try to obstruct our law enforcement from getting criminals out of our communities. And now they're fundraising off of his death. You have this Democrat Act Blue notification here. Alex Pretti is the limit. Governor Walz, end the operation. Stand with us. Donate $50 for 200% match if you just click on our Act Blue link. That is, I mean, again, I told you there is no bar with them. That is one of the lowest things that I have ever said. Governor Walz is the one who has blood on his hands from encouraging this violent and illegal behavior in his state. Maybe if he had actually cooperated in the first place, we would not be where we're at. Oh, but wait, that's not what he wants. He wants to fundraise, clearly. Now, it turns out this guy wasn't just a peaceful protester. You guys are going to be shocked to hear. According to the latest reports, he was mobilized by a highly organized left-wing group through messages. This is a far-left network that helped put Alex Pretti in harm's way, then made him a martyr. These are encrypted signal messages that show rapid responders mobilized demonstrators to harass federal agents, and socialist groups capitalized on killing to foment protests. So they're using the app Signal, and these Signal group chats, they're all coordinated. They're all coordinated and planned to create chaos and impede law enforcement from doing their jobs. They've been organizing these protests using databases to report and send out blasts. I think we have a picture of those databases to report and send out blasts to people to get them to interfere with law enforcement, which, as it turns out, is totally against the law. They are all breaking the law, and they are, as they are breaking the law, making themselves more unsafe and the ICE officers more unsafe. So everyone in the situation is now made more unsafe. The only difference is that there is one perpetrator of an illegal act and there is one who is literally just going in there trying to do their damn job, which is totally lawful. Taking violent criminals out of our communities. Okay, so let me show you this other one. Backup needed at the Black Forest Inn parking lot on Nicollet Avenue, just south of 26th Street. Multiple vehicles with many agents appear to be staging there. One confirmed ICE vehicle seen was a maroon Dodge Durango, but it has driven away northbound on Nicollet. And then they sent more people to mobilize after the guy was shot as well. So you come here to cause problems. You cause the problems. You have, of course, the consequence of you causing the problems. And then the solution, apparently, to these losers is to encourage more protests, more problems, more chaos, more confusion. And somehow it's the ICE agents' fault. And if you don't believe that this is the true intention of the Democrats at the very top, why don't I read to you what Bernie Sanders said after the shooting happened? I want to thank our courageous friends in Minnesota who, in below freezing temperatures, are standing up to ice. The American people want democracy and justice, not authoritarianism. When we stand together, we win. So he is actually commending the people going out there and obstructing ICE and making them less safe. He has the audacity, the American people want democracy and justice, not authoritarianism. As if we didn't just elect a little over a year ago a president to come in and deport the criminals. These people hate democracy, actually. This is the very essence of democracy. The people asked for it. The people voted for it. They're getting what they wanted. And you're going to call that authoritarianism? I mean, you listen to these people for longer than 5 minutes and you realize they don't want democracy at all. In fact, they hate democracy. They hate it. We see what they do every time they get just a little sliver of power. Just a little sliver of the authoritative smell. Like it's like there's sharks and there's blood in the water. This is really despicable stuff from Bernie Sanders. Just kind of encouraging more people to take to the streets and do all of the illegal acts, knowing that he's not going to be out there in harm's way. He can encourage all of these dummies, all of these sheep to take to the streets. He's not going to be there. He's like, miss me with that, but you guys go out on ahead. I'm just going to fan the flames here and see what happens. Obama had the audacity to weigh in as well. The killing of Alex Pretti is a heartbreaking tragedy. It should also be a wake-up call to every American, regardless of party, that many of our core values as a nation are increasingly under assault. Federal law enforcement and immigration agents have a tough job, but Americans expect them to carry out their duties in a lawful, accountable way and to work with rather than against state and local officials to ensure public safety. We're seeing the opposite in Minnesota. For weeks now, people across the country have been rightly outraged by the spectacle of masked ICE recruits and other federal agents acting with impunity and engaging in tactics that seem designed to intimidate, harass, provoke, and endanger the residents of a major American city. Now that, my friends, is so rich. That is so rich coming from a man who also was known as the deporter-in-chief. Let's listen to Obama not that long ago.
I'm the president of the United States. I'm not the emperor of the United States. My job is to execute laws that are passed. And Congress right now has not changed what I consider to be a broken immigration system. And what that means is that we have certain obligations to enforce the laws that are in place, even if we think that in many cases the results may be tragic. There are going to be some stories that break our hearts. And more importantly, we're going to continue to have an economy that is stifled by a really inefficient system where not only are we deporting folks, but we also have a legal immigration system that is so bottlenecked that it forces sometimes people into the illegal system.
Up until the first 10 seconds, Barack Obama of 2013 is like the Sara Gonzales of 2026. Like, yes, we have laws on the books. And by the way, the most important piece that you just heard him say is, yeah, there are going to be stories that are sad. There are going to be stories that just break your heart. There are going to be stories about, young kids who have to go back because their families are going back. And like, that's okay. But harden your hearts, guys. Harden your hearts. Saving this country isn't for the weak. Saving this country isn't for the faint of heart. What else do you think is going to happen? We have to enforce federal law, and federal law says they gotta go. Interesting coming from the Barack Obama who dares say what he said yesterday. So I don't understand what Democrats expected to happen here. They have been inviting an escalation for months. They have been telling people to go out to prevent ICE from doing their jobs, to protect the criminals, the illegal criminals. Accidents are going to happen in this powder keg. There are going to be problems. There are going to be times where the chaos turns deadly. That is the fault of the agitators, not the ICE officers. This is not the time to give in to them. They created this chaos by resisting law enforcement. And when someone creates chaos, you don't give in to them. When someone starts throwing a fit, when your toddler has a meltdown, you have your toddler who's throwing an epic tantrum. What happens if you give in to them? What do they learn? They learn to throw a tantrum every single time to get their way because they've learned that you'll give it to them. As a parent, you know that's not the right thing to do. You know the right thing to do is to stand strong, which is what we need to do in this particular situation. Now, President Trump posted on True Social earlier, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him, and that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have had such tremendous success in D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans. And both Governor Walz and I want to make it better in Minnesota. I want to kind of encapsulate all of this with this point. If Governor Walz had worked with him at the beginning, there are at least 2 Minnesota citizens who would still be with us. And Governor Walz is going to have to deal with that. Okay. Now, on top of that, Kristi Noem and some of the administration who have made comments after the fact I was not impressed by them. I was not impressed by them at all. Actually, they were very misleading. You have a right to bring a gun wherever you would like to go. You also have a responsibility to make sure that chaos doesn't break out because you have a gun and you're acting in an irresponsible manner. On top of that, if you are reckless while having a firearm on you, expect consequences. Okay? I carry all the time. You know how I don't get shot by ICE? I don't arm myself with a loaded weapon and start breaking the law and start a fight with law enforcement officers. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. I want you to go ahead and make sure you're subscribed to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Smash the like button, comment. It'll help us in the algorithm, which we all know is stacked against us. And then I'm going to thank our sponsor, and then we're going to come back. We have our friend Jorge on the streets of Minneapolis, kind of giving us a scene of what's happening today, this afternoon over there. But I want to thank our sponsor of this segment, Patriot Protect. So Patriot Protect is, I don't know if you guys realize this, your personal, like all of your personal information. It's 2026. It's all available online. Your name, your address, your phone number, your family members, your age, your online behavior. I mean, it's really scary how much information about you is publicly available online right now. It's not hard to find. It's published at like a bunch of different websites, hundreds of data brokers openly listing where you live, who you live with, how to contact you. And this is how scammers actually decide who to target. This is how identity fraud starts showing up. And so as 2026 begins, are you still going to just keep leaving your information online and vulnerable, or will you take action to remove it? Patriot Protect can do that for you. They're going to remove your personal data from the internet, wiping it from Google and every major website where scammers, cyber criminals, and stalkers search for targets. You never agreed to share that information, so take it back, will you? They're going to find and delete your personal information from 240 plus people search engines and data brokers, the exact sites criminals use to case people before they strike. And by the way, they have a search and destroy protocol that continuously monitors to make sure that if they pop up, they're going to be hit and back down, deleted very quickly. So listen, if you want to start 2026 with less exposure and more control, use my code Sara for 15% off all Patriot Protect plans. That is patriot-protect.com/Sara, promo code Sara. Joining me now to talk about the chaos of what is happening in Minnesota from the streets of Minneapolis, we have Jorge Ventura, independent reporter. Jorge, thanks for joining me once again from the streets of Minneapolis. What are you seeing there, my friend?
Hey, sir. So right now I'm actually on the scene of the Home 2 Suites Minneapolis Hotel. Last night, is where a riot here took place. We got an alert of a protest here around 9:30 local time, and that's when I arrived in the scene, and it was pretty chaotic. Some of the windows are smashed, but they already started to clean up some of the graffiti. This was actually all here, so it was completely vandalized. Inside that lobby right now was completely destroyed. And the reason why this hotel was targeted, the protesters believe that ICE agents were here, so they were causing a chaotic scene. Right here on the both ends of the street, they actually barricaded them with like wooden pallets, mattresses. They had a bunch of cars of protesters just lined up, beeping and honking. They were literally just hitting anything, snow shovels. They're just trying to cause as much chaotic. You still actually hear the alarm of the hotel, but all this was actually had graffiti. And I did come out earlier today. They were started to clean them up, but pretty chaotic scenes here with federal agents targeted. When I got here, I thought that local police would arrive pretty quickly. But it took over 2 hours to actually get a law enforcement response, and it was federal agents that responded. I didn't see any St. Paul local police, and it was pretty chaotic. There's one moment where you actually look at my video where there's a federal agent here. He was actually hit in the head with an object and was very disoriented, and he's actually kind of yelling to the press. He has that one moment where he goes, "Where is the local PD?" He says, "That's my question to the media," and I think that essentially telling the story of Minneapolis, where these federal agents feel abandoned by local PD. Seems like they are just not going to get any type of support. So this was a scene where that riot took place last night. So for your viewers who are seeing some of that viral video, this is the exact location, and we were here reporting, documenting it for about 2 hours last night, Sarah.
Yeah, Jorge, it was really sad to watch that video. By the way, we were able to do a side by side while you were talking of what you're looking at right now versus what it was last night. It was really sad, just really sad to see that federal agent. But you see him bleeding from the hand. He's obviously very, confused. And to see these people who actually mean him harm is pretty scary. I also saw that you got footage of a bunch of protesters trying to take on an armored vehicle.
Yeah, that's right. So following the shooting Saturday, we headed right to that location that's on Nicole and 26, not too far from the downtown Minneapolis area. And as soon as we arrived, as you could expect, there was already a large crowd of protesters, very angry, directing that anger at the police who were still at the scene. They were obviously trying to collect it, and there was still evidence to be collected. So as soon as I arrived, it was already kind of a chaotic moment. Minnesota State Police actually formed kind of like a line to block the protesters from the scene. And then as soon as I got there, I looked to my right, and that's where I see that huge armored vehicle by federal agents. Kind of looked like something out of a movie, and just charging towards the scene. And that's where a bunch of protesters try to block themselves, try to use their body, but eventually the armored vehicle made its way. But I think that video really kind of captured a lot of Americans' kind of minds of like what we're starting to see here, almost on a daily, nightly basis. I wouldn't be surprised if more hotels are actually targeted tonight, where ICE agents are staying. And Sarah, this was that exact moment where that federal agent was standing. He was holding that it was like a less lethal pepper ball gun, and he looked very disoriented. I mean, I was looking at his hands, very bloody. And like I said, he had that moment where he kind of like pleaded to the media of like, "Where's local PD?" He looked like in real bad shape. And eventually they were able to get the federal agents, escort. Obviously, they have a warning sign, but I would imagine that all the guests are probably going to be cleared out here tonight. Last week I already reported, and I talked about it on your show, about the other Hilton in the St. Paul area that essentially had to just close down because they were afraid that this was going to happen in one of their hotels. So we'll see how these things are unfolding here in Minneapolis. So far, we don't really see any strong statements from the mayor, governor, or at least local PD that they'll kind of stop some of the kind of left-wing violence we're seeing on the streets. So I would see that I would expect for it to still kind of continue throughout the week here in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Yeah, Jorge, it feels a whole lot like the summer of love in 2020, especially when you consider that this is the site, right? The original, and this is ground zero for that. But then when you also consider they're talking about staging these protests where they're going to go on strike and they're not participating in the economy in their own state and their own city. And then on top of that, they're breaking windows at hotels in their own city. It's like, I don't understand what they think that is going to accomplish, just total destruction to their own city. Like, what do you, Do you get the sense that these people know anything about what they're doing? Or do you get the sense that they're paid? Do you get the sense that they're just useful idiots? Like, what are you getting on the ground?
To be honest, sir, like the simplest term that I could put it is, it's the majority of people you see are like 90% white liberals, but they have this calling to be like a white savior. You know, when you're interviewing them, they feel like they're fighting for their Somali neighbor, and they feel like, hey, because I'm white, I have the privilege that my brown and black sisters can't be out. That's obviously like the language that they're using, but they really feel like, and maybe this starts with mainstream media and kind of the local politician language, but they do view ICE as a Gestapo, as kind of a Nazi force. So that's the viewpoint from them on the ground, at least from the conversations that I had with them. That's why I don't think we're going to see any slowing down when it comes to Border Patrol carrying out their operations. I think we're still going to see kind of those clashes. As of now, I don't see kind of any signs of that slowing down.
Now, you, Jorge, are actually getting doxxed by Antifa for being out there and covering this. The Conejo Valley anti-fascists posted a hostile media alert. Oh, look at Jorge in his gloves and his toboggan. He's so hostile over there. They said Jorge Ventura is on an assignment in Minneapolis for the Daily Caller and is being retweeted by Andy No. Have you been confronted at all by these people?
Actually, so, thank God, Sarah, not yet. I think what kind of helps is that like the weather is really bad, so everyone's kind of bundled up.
Yeah.
But you really never know. So, I am keeping my head on the swivel. I think one thing that I'm not lucky, but I have a ton of experience from covering the 2020 riot. So I'm kind of really, I'm kind of like a riot veteran, if you want to put it in terms. So, but so far everything has been really good. Everyone has been showing us just a lot of support on the ground. The amount of followers that are telling us, hey, if you guys need security or anything. So people have really been showing us a lot of love. The one thing I just want to convey is we are not slowing down. Like if people think that we're going to like back down, we're not going to back down to no one. We're going to keep filming. What these activists try to do is by causing and harming journalists, they also deter a lot of reporters from wanting to come out and cover. So we have that opposite approach. So the more threats, that only fires us up, and we're going to continue being out here. There's no way they're going to shut us down. There's no way.
If you had to give President Trump advice on what to do next, what would you tell him to do?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know how, the legality of it, but Border Patrol and these ICE agents, they need some type of either National Guard force or DHS. Like they need another kind of protection. If they're not going to get it from local BD, I don't know if that's through an insurrection act, but you have to remember, we're getting to a point where regular working class people are now being affected with businesses closing by them, obviously doing stuff like this. There was an image, actually, Sarah, I was standing right here. There was like a little kid who was very fearful. So it's starting to just impact the everyday Americans. And we're really getting to that boiling point.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jorge, you're doing such great work down there, or I should say up there in Minneapolis. Tell everyone where they can follow you and find you.
Yeah, best spot would be Twitter and Instagram, Jorge Ventura TV on Instagram. And for the latest breaking news, as it's happening, Ventura Report on X. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jorge. Will you stay safe, please?
Yes. And we're staying warm, too. So, yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, hopefully we can catch you soon. Jorge Ventura, make sure to follow him. We'll see you soon, friend. All right. And with that, we will be right back with more. Interestingly enough, in the wake of what is happening in Minneapolis, you have a lot of people, a lot of what I would call weak Republicans who called themselves MAGA, who voted for President Trump, who even would say that they voted for President Trump because they wanted mass deportations, because they wanted all of these illegals out of our country to stop draining our resources and, violently assaulting and raping our women and children. Like they voted for this. And now all of a sudden, they're saying to themselves, oh, this feels too mean. Oh, this feels too icky. Never mind. We don't want ICE. We want deportations, but not like that. It's been very interesting to watch these Republicans all of a sudden turn on the agenda that they seemingly voted for a little over a year ago. And I wanted to speak to my friend Jaco Posobiec. He is, of course, host of Human Events, and just get his take on the matter because Jack, welcome to the show, by the way. I
What up, Sarah?
feel like it's good to see you. It's been a while. I feel like these situations, obviously, they're always unfortunate, right? Obviously, the chaos and the confusion, and anytime a human life is lost, it's totally unfortunate. But imagine that you're an ICE officer and you have an entire city who is out to get you. They've created these chats to monitor you, to follow you, to harass you, to intimidate you, to obstruct you from doing your job. And at a certain point, I mean, they're going to have a split second. They see this guy's actions. How can we be surprised that this happened?
Well, Sarah, I think it also helps to kind of zoom out and look at the context in so many of these situations. Tim Walz, who's the governor of Minnesota, he could right now issue an executive order saying that he wants the state police and the local police to work with ICE and that they would be able to go out and provide security. They'd be able to provide some help for dealing with this on the ground. But that's not what he's done. No, Tim Walz has sent out the National Guard to go give milk and cookies and donuts to the agitators that are out there at the Whipple Center. He's actually taking sides against ICE. And furthermore, you know, when you look at some of these tactics, they say, gosh, this reminds me of the Red Guards of the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese Cultural Revolution in the 1960s. And it occurs to me that, oh yeah, didn't Tim Walz go to China 30 times, including lying about being there during Tiananmen Square? So you wonder why it looks like a Chinese communist insurgency. Oh, right, that's exactly where Tim Walz learned how to do this stuff. These guys are operational. They are trained. We at Human Events have had teams on the ground there for weeks at this point, braving the agitators, going undercover, infiltrating them, and finding out what they're up to. These signal chats are absolutely organized to create swarms, and they have holding centers and spotters on. They have Antifa spotters on every single city block of the entire metropolitan area of both cities, right, Minneapolis and St. Paul. So they're organized in ways, people are telling me this is more heavily organized than Portland, more heavily organized than Chaz, than anything that we've seen before. We're dealing with a domestic Marxist insurgency. And so for these individuals, what do the Marxists do? What do the communists do? They use them as a martyr, these useful idiots, because they want to create the crisis, because then they can use the crisis to destabilize the actual party in power or the government that's in power because they want to take power themselves. This is a tried and true communist tactic. And I agree with you. I feel sick to my stomach that there are so many people who purportedly are, quote unquote, on our side that are totally falling for it.
Yeah, it's difficult to watch, especially when you see Bernie Sanders out over the weekend. I mean, I don't even know that a couple of hours had even passed before this guy died and he was out there tweeting. And I'm like, I notice that these people that you're talking about, these communists that you're talking about who want these color revolutions, they're constantly posting from their ivory towers to allow their foot soldiers, their useful idiots, as you called them, to go out and do the dirty work, to go out and put their lives in harm's way, thinking that they're doing something. And so it's just been really disgusting to watch them do all of this, knowing that they're safe. They don't have to deal with it. They'll just let these useful idiots take the bullets for them. So I want to ask you this too. I have seen a lot of people on the right who have said, oh, you must not believe in the First Amendment or the Second Amendment if you don't see the problem with this. And I'm like, how are we living in the same universe? This isn't about the First or the Second Amendments at all, Jack.
No, it's not. If you want to talk about the First Amendment, was this guy standing on the side of the road? Was he chanting? I've been out there in Minneapolis for a couple of these when it first started. Is he out there chanting? Is he holding a sign? Is he conducting First Amendment activity? No, he's in the road conducting an illegal armed roadblock. He's participating in a criminal conspiracy with these anti-ICE Antifa chats that he's going out there working to disrupt operations. This is not someone who's exercising his First Amendment right. That's number one. Then number two, yes, the Second Amendment does give you a right to bear arms. However, you also have something called responsibility. You still have a responsibility to do so within the confines of the law. It is irresponsible to take firearms like that into a situation like that, then to get into a fight with federal police officers, then to try to resist arrest after they work to arrest you. And then at some point, you're going to turn around and you have people saying, oh, it was self-defense. Oh, it's just with the Second Amendment? No. First of all, he didn't even go out with his carry permit or with his ID. And let me tell you something, as someone who concealed carries, I make sure to know that whenever, it's actually right here in my pocket, in my wallet, that if I'm concealed carry, I've got my ID, I've got my wallet, I've got it all on me. That tells me that this guy was out there looking for trouble when he didn't bring those with him. But of course, you'll hear all these people say, oh no, they just completely remove all the context, the entire situation. And I agree, there's been some statements talking about protests and et cetera, talking about it. It's guys, zoom in. All right, you got to lock in. We have to lock in. This is the fight for Western civilization. The Battle of Minneapolis is the front lines for this. And it's really simple. Are you on the side of civilization or are you on the side of the barbarism? Because that's really what this comes down to. We're not playing these little games right now. We know what the situation is, and deep down, so do all of you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Spot on. I see what's happening. Did you see the video of the ICE agent who his hand was all bloodied and he was outside the hotel and he was calling for backup and no backup was coming? So they're getting bloodied on the streets. You had some lunatic that bit off an agent's finger. By the way, he's losing the finger. President Trump shared this really disgusting image of that. And so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, any ICE agent on the streets,
it's actual
really
barbarism. This is unhuman activity. I wrote the book last year about this, and they got so mad at me for using that word. And I said, well, what else would you call this? What else would you call this? You have completely disabused yourself of your humanity when you treat a fellow person like this. When you treat, I think it was Bureau of Prisons was the agent last night, literally standing in the breach, calling for backup, and Tim Walz could have sent the police, could have sent the National Guard, could have sent anyone to go help them. Nothing was sent. And so that guy, I believe he has a Give, Send, Go up, and I'm certainly going to be promoting it because these are the type of heroes. These are heroes not just for the United States or for Trump or anything. No, we're talking about Western civilization. Do we deserve to continue, or are we going to play these recrimination games over and over until the Marxists start shoving us all into the mass graves?
Yeah, and especially when you consider their reaction to Charlie's assassination, their reaction to Charlie getting a bullet in the neck, and they were dancing, partying, celebrating, and oh, I'm sorry, now all of a sudden you're very offended by some guy who provoked ICE agents. Like, I just don't buy it. It's gone too far. They've gone too far with all of this. And so, Jack, at this point, if you're an ICE officer on the streets of Minneapolis, and you see all of the threats coming towards you day in and day out, and you see all of this coordinated effort behind the scenes to try to get at them. Me personally, I think if there's any shooting that happens with ICE, obviously each individual incident needs to be dealt with accordingly. But if I'm an ICE agent on the streets of Minneapolis, I feel like I have a reasonable suspicion if a civilian approaches me, I'm already in fear for my life. And that's not because I'm being unreasonable. It's because I'm under attack.
Yeah, look, it's very simple. It is irresponsible to interfere with police officers conducting lawful operations. And number one, it's just irresponsible to begin with. And it's the height of irresponsibility to do so while carrying a lethal weapon. Yes. Every concealed carry course that you take, if anyone's ever taken one, you know what that means. You know that if you're carrying a firearm into a situation, you are changing that situation. You are changing everyone's reactions into that situation. And it's really simple. Like when I go to these courses, it's, if you get pulled over, you got a gun in the car. Hey, it's 10 and 2. Officer, just so you know, it's in the glove box. It's wherever it is. Yep. I just want to let you know that that's what you do. Because guess what, boys and girls? We live in the real world. And in the real world, if you're doing something that makes that officer unsafe, you're going to have a bad day. And what this guy did was willful, it was deliberate, and it sickens me that I hear people wanting to make excuses for him as if he was some kind of he's a 37-year-old man, by the way. His parents warned him not to do this. They said, stop getting involved with this, stop engaging Alex, because they knew that he was a hothead, and that's exactly what he did. He has personal responsibility, the same responsibility that all of us have. The only person he has to blame is himself.
Yeah. Well, people on the internet are like, he was an ICU nurse. It's like, okay, that doesn't change any of the circumstances with this incident. It's just total gaslighting and manipulation. All right, last question for you, Jack. If you were advising President Trump on what to do next and how to handle this, what would you say? Because I've actually been surprised that we haven't sent the National Guard to just quell this situation already.
So I actually think that I'm not at the point yet where I think the Insurrection Act is necessary, because we just haven't seen the level of violence yet, but it's certainly on the table. I think what they're doing now with surging resources, getting Tom Homan out, working with Secretary Noem, working with the incredible Commander Povino, who's out there. Look, zoom out. We are seeing the largest deployment of federal agents to a city for immigration enforcement in U.S. history. This is the largest ever. We've never seen anything like that. Why? Because we're dealing with an unprecedented situation that was created by Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and so many others. And so I say stay the course, do not back down, double down.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you so much, my friend. Your insights are always invaluable. Jaco Posobiec, also known as Poso, over there, host of
God
Human
bless
Events.
her.
Yeah, thanks. Talk soon. All right, with that, we will be right back. Earlier, my friend Jorge mentioned that there are all of these white liberal women, these mentally ill white liberal women who think that they are a white savior, and it is upon them to save these poor black and brown people, criminals, but poor black and brown people who are being taken from their communities. And I want to show, this was probably the most disgusting video that I have seen from these events thus far. This mother is showing her child a graphic video of the ICE shooting. So she's like, oh, we have to have conversations with our kids. We have to have conversations. Okay.
It's really hard to watch.
I know. I don't know why they do that. But I think they shot him out of rage.
Does it look like he posed a threat?
No.
Why are people telling different stories?
MAGA will do anything to make sure that ICE is seen as innocents.
Ooh. Federal officers are on the American streets executing U.S. citizens.
Mm-hmm. Their mission isn't trying to get the immigrants back. It's trying to hurt everybody that they can.
This is a bad mom. That is a bad mom. That is child abuse. That is clear-cut mental and emotional child abuse. You should have your children taken from you, ma'am. Showing him a graphic video so that you can get him on board with your anti-MAGA, orange man bad rhetoric is truly disgusting. Here's a thought. Just let kids be kids. Don't involve kids in your anti-MAGA war and anti-MAGA agenda. Maybe you could just do that, but no. The mentally ill liberal white woman has to take it upon herself to make sure that her young son now has the programming. Guys, we need to be very, very careful as we move into the midterms. This is going to be a problem. These mentally ill white women, as we saw during COVID, they vote. So please, let's address this. The last thing we need is these crazy sickos running things.